Alright guys, we're playing with a little B350 right now. So, just wanted to show you guys the Brm Temps. If you guys can see this, trying to get the angle right. As with the other ones, temps can get increasingly hot. I've seen up to 62 on this particular board. And the real factor is that I'm only at 1.2 volts. So the SoC doesn't run too bad. Right now we're probably on a lighter load test. I've seen this area up to 62, mostly at the top. In this section, gets warm. We are at, oh geez, I don't know, over 10 hours in prime right now. The voltage in hardware monitor says I've been up to 1.297 volts and as low as 1.199. So I don't buy it. If I was gonna buy anything, I might buy the AMD CPU V-Core, which is peak 1.212, average 1.194, and when I last checked I was getting 1.20 at the socket. Average current is bouncing around 1.2 to 1.19. So we'll get the meter out and we'll test that. Actually, the south bridge somewhere over here is the center. Doesn't run that hot. It's like 43, 44, 45, 47, 50 maybe. Tops, stress and prime. So originally I had thought that like 1.3 volts might be safe on these boards with an 8-core. Probably not. 62 Celsius in 74 degrees Fahrenheit ambient is pretty warm. As the ambience increase over the summertime, which they're going to increase, the temps are going to go up considerably, and because the heat sinks are so small, there's going to be runaway. It's just going to run away, and the temps, you're not going to be able to control the temps eventually. But also remember, I'm in a case. This is the closest thing I can get to a case, but there's no fans on it. Case might actually have airflow, but you're going to have heat in a case from other components. Not only that, heat rises. This is at the bottom right now, so at the top it's going to be a little bit hotter. But this is the closest thing I can get to a case without actually sticking in a case. I have to swap boards on a regular basis. I'm not sitting there and swapping them in a case. A switching frequency on this board you can set manually from, I think it was 200 to 350. I probably would not run 350 on an 8-core, but it will be interesting to see if so it's about 200 meters, reading it about right. And then the SoC saying about 170, but it's probably 200. So that's a switching frequency, not a big deal on this board. You can't change Northbridge, but you can change the CPU. I would not change the CPU for an 8-core. Maybe with R5 you might be able to go up a notch with the 6-core and then up another notch with the 4-core. I will test that. I actually have a decent 4-core. I have a I guess you could call it average 6-core. I don't think I'm going to get the 6-core up to the full clocks on this board because it's pretty bad. It's not great. It's like a 3.8 chip. But the 4-core, I don't see why it can't run at 4 gig. We will find out when I plug it in. Anyway, let's get to testing the back of the board. Now, what was it, Prime Pro has these pads on the back. This one has pads on the back too, and Prime Pro's cool because you've got the SoC on one side and you've got the V-core on the other side. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, that's not what I'm getting here. Look. Helps if I put this on voltage, but anyway. I'm getting 1.2 at both pads. 1.2 is my V-core. And I go to this pad, I have to swap back around. I'm still getting V-core. So I'm actually set at 1.2 in BIOS. I have some pretty hefty phase settings. With this board, I didn't want the voltage bouncing around a lot, and there's probably, if you put an oscilloscope on it, I'm probably, you know, sure it's jumping over. We've got 1.1 set in the BIOS for SoC. This is SoC. This is the V-core cap right here. 1.2 also. So not getting any resistance from, more resistance from a cap than I am from these two pads. Can't remember what this was. That would be V-core. What is this? That would be V-core. Let's see what we got at this pad right here. That's probably your memory. That's what's getting fed into the IMC from the memory. If we check over here, I don't even know if we can check there. We probably check. Where's the cap on this one? This is the cap for the memory. I think it's the cap of the memory. I hope so. Well, maybe it's not. I thought it would give me a reading here. Well, that explains why I'm not getting a reading there. It's probably right here. .35, so that's what I have in BIOS. Of course, I'm backwards, but same thing. 1.35. So it droops a little bit before it gets to the socket. which probably not a bad thing. Let's see what this is. This is probably PLL. Nope. That's probably your VDDP, which we don't have access to. So this is probably PLL. Also, it's actually drooping a little. It's 1.8 in BIOS. I can't set it any lower. So we have VDDP on this board, but we don't have access to it in the BIOS. At one point there was a standby VDDP, and then it's gone. At one point there was 0.30 available volts plus 0.30, and now it's gone. Probably a good thing, because the voltage already goes up to 1.4 on this chip, and I'm only running 1.2 because I'm being smart about it. So that's V-core readings on this board. Temps have only gone up to like 60 on the CPU, which is pretty interesting. I mean, that's if you trust how I monitor. 58, well, I go up to 75, so I guess I'm gaining like 7.5 degrees per 0.1 volt increase. Of course, I'm using cheap paste. I don't really use good paste in any of my testing, because if you swap CPUs as much as I do, stuff is like $5.99. I don't even know what you would call that for the amount of quantity, but this stuff is $6.99, and it's 1 fluid ounce. I can do about probably 200, 300 CPU swaps with this stuff. I can probably do about 20 CPU swaps with this stuff. So when you swap hardware as much as I do, you can care less about temps and more about the fact that you actually have the paste to do it. So that's the kind of paste I use for most of my testing. Unless I'm benching, then I'll swap to something better. What things to go over? Well, we can go over the BIOS settings. Well, actually, take a look at this real quick. So, hardware monitor is pretty much useless on this board. I don't know if you can see those. You should be able to see those in the video. The fan works. None of these voltages really relate to anything. Vin 4 looks like it actually might be my CPU core, which has been holding at 2.0 like the whole time I've been. I mean, no, that one. What was the 1.2? There was some voltage in here. I don't know. This is way off. There was some voltage that I seen in this board that looked like it might be accurate to something, but I'm not sure which one it is. Oh, so yeah, I think on this board, believe it or not, the V-core and the SoC are probably accurate for my socket measurements, and the VDCR down here is probably accurate for my cap measurements, because the cap is reading significantly higher than the socket. This is more along the lines of what I'm getting at the socket, so if you like going by socket, go by that. If you like going by caps, go by that. Like I said, I've ran Prime for an extensive amount of time. This board previously did not pass Prime whatsoever. It would always drop 20 minutes in at 3200 RAM. So I've beaten this memory up, I've benched it, I've run ridiculous volts through it and everything, and now it's working in this board at 3200. Now, I don't think me beating on my memory made it any better. If anything, it made it worse probably. But New BIOS 0609 said something about memory compatibility after the 1004A BIOS. It's still 1004A, but they added memory compatibility. They haven't added a BIOS like that yet for the Prime Pro, so there's still light at the end of the tunnel for that board too, because that board won't even post now at 3200. That board used to post for me, but it wasn't stable. It was bench stable. But now it doesn't even post at 3200. This board wasn't posting at 3200. Now, load XMP, go, bang, Prime stable. I benched it 4 gig on this board. Actually, I did it last night. Whoop. You can bench on them. Fittingly enough, I named the picture. What the hell did I name the picture? Oh yeah, we named the picture B350 putting in work, because that's what it did. What happened to my picture? There we go. So here was the excuse me, B350 putting in work at 4 gig, 1800 score. I've actually seen higher on this board. I got 1822, 1835, but this is the one I saved. So yeah, that was with my MOSFET grade thermal paste. Temps were my limiting factor. It was peaking 75C by the end of the bench, so trying to go higher. If I had lower temps, I probably could have done it up to 4.1 like it's done before on this board. So I don't think I've lost anything clockwise. I had better paste on the board when I did 4.1. Yeah, this little board can bench with the best of them, apparently. It just can't 24/7 with the best of them, apparently. Oh, one of the things I wanted to go over is actually, because someone had complained about the Tai Chi recently. Last night, before I put this board in, see if I can find the damn screenshot. Maybe I named it under A. I have no clue what I did with it. 3600 maybe? Oh, I know what I did. There we go. So due to recent complaints of the ASRock's new BIOS, I felt the need to show people that the new BIOS is not limiting my ability to overclock it. That's 2.20. I have real complaints for the BIOS, but complaints are not me not being able to push the board. The complaints are real complaints, like I don't know, no fine grain ref clock. I should be able to go 100.2. If I can go 100.2, I could get to 3600. My complaints are my chip sucks. My complaints are my memory sucks. My complaints aren't that the board can't do 3600. My complaints aren't that the board can't do ref clock. I have real complaints about the board, but instead of making a video and crying about it, I sent a message to someone at ASRock, and they're aware of the problems. So anyway, moving back to the little B350. Like I've said, this board is awesome. I've had Skype running, I had hardware monitor running, I had all this stuff running. It just is not awesome at high voltage. You are going to break it. So let's go take a look at the BIOS settings. Can't remember if this BIOS was photogenic. I think it was not. So try to bear with me with the camera here. This thing's awesome. You put a little speaker on the I've got a little port 80 with a speaker built on it, but port 80 isn't plugged in because it doesn't give me any readings. But you put a little speaker on it and you can tell what's going on. In fact, sometimes this board, I noticed, will from a cold boot, it'll go beep 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 beep. Just leave it. Don't touch anything. It'll boot. It might reset your settings, but it's probably not. The problem isn't the board. The problem is Ryzen. Ryzen, the memory controller degrades as temperature goes down, and when you boot from a cold boot, well, your memory controller isn't warmed up enough yet in the chip. So that's why you would get a failed post from a cold boot. So let's see if I can get you guys back a little bit so you can see the whole BIOS. Maybe move this hard drive out of the way so you guys don't have to stare at that cable. Alright. That should be good enough. Covers you guys, covers me. Oh, maybe I'll move just a little more. Alright. So, BIOS information, obviously. None of this stuff. My favorites. AO clock tuner, I set the DOCP just for testing. On this particular board, DOCP sets VDDCR 1.1. That's reasonable. 1.2 is the max that AMD has recommended, so 1.1 is not bad. It sets 1.35 on the memory, which is not bad. It sets the VTT probably. It's not showing it, but it's saying it set it. It probably did set it. I'm going to trust that the board set it. Probably set it at 1.675. Is it 675? Yes. 675. So, sets this automatically, so I didn't have to mess with it. Custom core ratio, I don't do that. I do just the manual overclocks. Clock tuner keeps things. Performance BIOS unless you're benching. CB, ADA, once again. DigiVRM. So, because this board is weaker, I guess you could say, I'm pushing this stuff to the max. As you saw, my voltages at the socket are pretty spot on. Even the BIOS as my core voltage is pretty much what I'm asking for. My voltage is spot on. The switching frequency does go up. I highly suggest not pushing it up with a 8-core chip. The options you have here are optimized or extreme. Optimized, extreme, high, regular, and extreme, high, regular. So right now this is using full phase. This thing would try to like optimize it based on temperature, but because the phase is so damn small, I chose to run full phase. So this is your VTT running half your memory. This is your CPU PLL voltage. This is your 1.05 PROM or Southbridge voltage, depending on the board that you're using. DRAM, self-explanatory. VDR, SoC, self-explanatory. Some boards say this is Northbridge, which it's not, but That's just what they say. And then the VDDCR. This board actually allows for 1.4. So advanced CBS. There is no spread spectrum. I don't see it on this board. Core performance boost disabled, global C state disabled, or overclocking if you don't want power saving features. CPU configuration. Down core works on this board. I've tested it before. Just your basic SATA stuff. Basic stuff. Basic stuff. This one actually offers a network stack. And basically nothing. And more of items that I usually don't use. Monitor. I actually shut the CPU temperature off when I was benching earlier. At 74C it was just shutting off. I actually got up to 80C after I shut it off. Don't know if it was just coincidence or not. So probably want to leave that on for 24/7 use. Q fan configuration. They give you you know, all these options. Chassis fan. So you can set all kinds of options for the fans. I just have it disabled right now. In fact, I'm just gonna put it back on. Go with a standard CPU fan because there was no need for it. Your basic options in the boot, I go into here, disable, set the advanced mode. I wish this was actually default by advanced mode. Hopefully Asus changes it. It's just, no one uses, well, I can't say no one, but no one uses this. Or the majority don't use this, so it would be really nice if it just went to the advanced mode by default, in my opinion. You can save overclocking profiles. You can actually save profiles to USB drive, but every time we put a cap, it puts it in the root of the folder. It's like, I've done a search on the freaking hard drive, we can't even find them. It takes like rocket scientists to figure out where it's putting the saved profiles, because we were trying to share them, see if there was a problem with the CPU or memory once, and it wasn't working. Anyway, that's the board. There's not much to it, but I mean, my board, I paid $80 for it. Literally, well, $79 for it. So you can get a clearance track board, and the person before you that opened the box didn't like completely destroy the board and like use it as a box cutter or something. You can actually get a good board. I have zero problems with this board. I actually have another one brand new that I did a giveaway on. I actually have to ship it this week to Sweden, which was not in my plans, which is why it's not shipped yet, because I work in the shipping business and it's a pain in the neck for me to ship stuff internationally. But anyway, this is the board. That was the BIOS. Those are all the settings. We covered all the voltages. I think I've covered everything. When I go and swap to, what is it, the 1600X and my 1400, I think I have a 1400 around here somewhere. This chip is junk. That thing is like horrible. I had high expectations for that chip and it sucked. Like big time. Oh, I know where it is. It's in my phase change board. Yeah, the 1600, I had high expectation. It's a lottery on the R5. It has nothing to do with the model. It's just complete lottery. Anyway, we'll cover some other chips on the board and what voltages I feel are safe. I wouldn't go over 1.2 on the 8-core. So we're going to swap some boards and chips around and make another video later on. Bye.